typed my lyrics into AI, and then it just pumped out a song. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to play, and I made several versions of this, but I'm just going to play a little bit of the song that AI wrote based on how I described it to AI and the lyrics I wrote.
I grew up in a trailer, some call it a mobile home. We had a little money, we just spent it all wrong.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And then I also have a rap song that I did. I wrote a rap song about 20 years ago. And it's not doing the rap song exactly like I want it to do. But let's see if we can just get a little bit of it here.
He's a slow walking, slow talking.
No, that's not it. Like, who am I, a DJ now?
He's a slow walking, slow talking country boy from Alabama.
Right? I mean, the song needs work because it's not doing the song how I have it in my head, right? So, but I'm just saying it's really great. I mean, you know, just like with posters or anything else that I've been thinking about, it's like I have these ideas and I don't necessarily have the tools to create them. So I've always been reliant on other people to make these things come to life for me. I have a relative, and his stepmom lived next to a guy who had 2 Cane Corso dogs. And I don't know if you've ever seen these Cane Corso dogs, but they are, you know, they look like a big pit bull. And I don't want to be controversial here because I know this is a hot topic with people, but I am not a fan of pit bulls. I'm not really that big of a fan of dogs in general. I don't hate dogs. I don't mistreat them. My dad's got a couple old country dogs out there at his house. You pull up out there, they come running up. They're nice. They're friendly. I don't mind dogs. I'm not a big fan of indoor dogs because I just think, some people have little bitty dogs and they don't really shed, and those are cool and whatever. But I just think dogs shed a lot. And then their hair is everywhere, and then their hair gets all over your clothes. Everywhere you go, you got dog hair on you, and then you can smell the dogs, and I think it affects my breathing. I'm not into it. I feel like that's some kind of like weird, out-of-touch opinion to have these days where you don't like dogs. I feel like I've just had this conversation. But I feel like there used to be like uppity people didn't like indoor dogs, and country folks had dogs. And then somehow it's flipped. My relative's stepmom had a neighbor with a couple of Cane Corso dogs. And I've heard a few different stories. Nobody seems to get the story right. I'm going to tell you the first story I heard, because it's the most horrendous of them. And then I'll tell you the other stories after. All the results are the same in the end. My relative's stepmom went over to their house. They were friends. They were hanging out. This is graphic. And when the lady got up to leave, she gave the lady that lived in the house a hug, and those 2 dogs attacked the stepmom and killed her. They killed this lady. I was like, oh, gosh, what an awful story. And then I heard that she was supposed to be feeding the dogs. They were out of town, so she went out back to feed them, and somehow one of them got out of I don't know, I guess they both got out of the pen and attacked her and killed her. And then the dad, the stepmom's husband, shot both of the dogs and killed them. And then I heard the story. They said the owner of the dogs was on Facebook, and he was like, yeah, they were mean. I raised them to be mean. And that story was that he told the lady, never go over there when I'm not there, because those dogs will get you. And she went over there when they weren't there. I heard those 3 stories. But regardless, the end result was these 2 dogs killed this lady. That's insane. Now, I know those cane corsos are not pit bulls, so this is not on pit bulls. But this is why I don't like pit bulls. And this is very controversial. I know people get very upset about this subject. So I'm gonna say it in this way, and this is the way I feel, because I have friends that have pit bulls. They are very sweet dogs. I understand they are very sweet, but this is why I don't like them. They're so strong. They're incredibly strong that if they do, and I know there are a lot of other strong dogs out there, but you just hear a lot of the pit bull stories, that these dogs are so strong that if they do decide to attack you, there's like nothing you can do. You almost cannot stop these dogs. People say you can put your thumb in their butt. And I'm like, well, I don't know how that's going to work. I assume that would work, but it feels like if a pit bull was attacking someone and you go over there and you put your thumb in their butt, then they're going to start attacking you. All right, so this is what I want to read you. This is the bingo card that somebody wrote, Tyler Brown. From Tyler Brown, I created a fun little bingo card for Dusty's podcast. It's not meant to be malicious. I love Dusty. Remember, he quit listening to Nateland because I wasn't his sort of thing. But you know what? He came back. And then he goes, you know what? I get it now. And I appreciate you. Welcome to the club. Oh, so the first bingo card, the first spot on here, Dusty forgets what he was talking about. Listen, that's what it's like when you're alone in a room talking to yourself. You're like, you go off on a tangent and then there's nobody here to go. You were talking about this. That's what it's like, guys. He mentions the land in McMinnville. Well, yeah, the land is a segment. It's a segment where I give you updates on the land. Dusty commits to doing his podcast every week and then disappears for 3 months. Well, that's going to happen, guys. That's going to happen. Dusty misinterprets the Bible. Well, that is up to your own interpretation. As far as I'm concerned, I always say to people, I say, hey, listen, I'm not saying I'm right about this, but he can't give any examples of misinterpretations, okay? Dusty wonders out loud if what he was saying is funny. That's another thing. When you're in a room by yourself, how do you know? Let's see. Here we go. Dusty says he likes something and then immediately complains about it. Well, yeah. Who likes anything, really? I mean, by the way, I love this bingo card. This made me laugh out loud so much. I pulled it up. Hannah was in the room with me, and I started reading it to her, and we laughed out loud at a lot of these. I'm a complainer. I like to complain, but I also recognize that I have a good life and that everything is great and wonderful and that there is nothing to complain about and that it's ridiculous to do so. But I like it. I like complaining. Man, and this is on the bingo card too, when I sold pesticides, there was this guy, he was the sales rep in Lowe's for sink fixtures. We would stand on that sink fixture aisle for an hour complaining about our jobs. And I've done this a couple times already. Here's another one. Dusty reminds the listener that he is by himself. Well, I am by myself, guys. Dusty makes a comment that shows he's definitely addicted to TikTok. I forgot this was on here, but I've talked about TikTok several times already. Oh, here's the next one. Dusty mentions working for Hyman's or Spectracide. People are complaining about my taking sips of water on the podcast. This one's on here too. Dusty talks about being gassy. I just want you to know, I just farted 2 times. Dusty desperately tries not to mention that the other podcast he is on is called Nateland. Well, I do sometimes go, I'm on another podcast. Dusty complains about the bad spirits at a True by Hilton. This is going to be a tough one on your bingo card because I don't stay at True by Hilton anymore. I won't stay at True by Hilton. I like Hilton. I'm a big fan of it, but not True by Hilton. I will not stay there anymore. Dusty wonders out loud if he should change the name of his podcast. Well, you know, I feel like We're Having a Good Time gets misinterpreted. Well, can I keep calling this the We're Having a Good Time podcast if I'm just complaining all the time? I think so. Here's another. Dusty complains about something for 15 minutes and then says it doesn't bother him. Well, that's the way to complain, right? You complain for a while and you go, hey, but it don't matter to me. Dusty mentions having a good time when he's clearly not having a good time. That's the whole point. We're having a good time is for when you're not really having a good time. Dusty insults a Nateland sponsor. Well, I don't really do that anymore because now they don't have me read sponsors that I don't agree with. Here's another. Dusty fails to hide his contempt for Burt Kreischer. Dusty forgets the name of the comic he worked with over the weekend. I didn't do it this week, though, guys, so don't mark that on your calendar, but I do that a lot. Dusty complains about bad customer service that he received. Well, it's out here, guys. Customer service is at an all-time low. Dusty complains about the current state of country music. Well, I opened the podcast with that one today. Dusty mentions doing theater shows instead of club shows. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm in a transition. There's a lot to talk about there. I mean, it's a big deal. Dusty mentions the poison we put in our bodies while simultaneously discussing his weed and cigar consumption. I'm not telling you to do those things. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take any advice from me on anything. You know, I used to work at Jim Bob's when I was a senior in high school. And also when I was a senior in high school, I started to experiment with drugs. And I was really getting into some stuff. And I took acid for the first time. Now, I don't know if it was the first time, but I took it and I stayed awake all night with my friends. And which is always what happened. I don't know what's going on with acid, but LSD, whatever you want to call it, but we stayed up all night. And then the next day, you know, you start to come down or crash or come back to reality, whatever. And now you've not slept. And I don't do well on no sleep. If I have no sleep, there's two things that struggle for me. No food and no sleep. Now, food I can do if I'm intentionally fasting. If I say, I'm fasting, something happens, and I don't crumble in that way. But no sleep, I really start to struggle. I start to slip into sadness, depression, and I want to cry. So this was in high school. I'm working at Jim Bob's. I have done acid. I've stayed up all night, and then I have to go into Jim Bob's the next day. And I didn't know this about myself at the time, that I would crumble at sleep exhaustion and do an acid. And I go into Jim Bob's that day, still out of my mind, really. I don't even know if Curtis knows this or Carrie or any of those. I don't know if they know this about me. But I went in and I was on the verge of depression and a small mental breakdown. And they were short-staffed. Someone had not been there earlier in the day. And so when I walked in, they were slammed, and they were like, hey, the dishwasher didn't show up today. So I look in the back, and the sink is just piled up with dishes, and everybody looks run ragged, and it looks awful. Now, as an adult, as a grown man with a decent work ethic, what I would do now is I would go, well, let's get it, and I would just get it in gear. I would start knocking out dishes or helping cook, whatever they need. I would jump right in there. But a 17-year-old on a head full of acid and no sleep had a little bit of a breakdown. And they go, you're going to have to wash dishes and make sauce and cook, and it's going to be a long day. And I didn't know what to do. So I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and take my break. And then I left and I never came back. And I'm pretty sure I did cry that day. I'm pretty sure later that day I put on a song, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain by Willie Nelson, and I think it made me cry. Let's see, I had an email and I wanted to read that. I got a couple of things. Oh, this guy, he heard me talking about video games on Nateland, and he said I played a lot of video games when I was younger, and like everyone, I started with Nintendo, then went to Sega, then Sega 32X, where I only played Doom, then Nintendo 64, and lastly the GameCube. I think that Zelda Ocarina of Time was my favorite. I also really liked Blaster Master for original Nintendo. What are some of your favorites? Well, I was born in 1982, and I got sisters that are 9 and 11 years older than me. So when I first was like awakened to video games, I don't know how old I was, but it was Atari. Atari was what we were playing first. We were playing Pitfall and some kind of ghost game. And Pitfall's mainly what I remember. Pitfall was really great on Atari back then. It was a really good game. And there were a few other things. Frogger, I remember. And we played that. That was great. And then when regular Nintendo came out, whatever year that was that came out, I got one of those. I loved regular Nintendo. I loved all the Mario games. Excite Bike was one of my favorites. I don't remember if Paperboy was Nintendo or Super Nintendo, but I had a game called Elevator Action. That was probably one of my favorite video games, Elevator Action. You were like a criminal, and you would zip line into the top of a building, and then you would try to work your way down, going through doors and different elevators while the cops were after you. That's about all I remember of that game. But then I also, I think Double Dragon was on it. Double Dragon was one of the best. Amazing game. I'm sure there are many that I was forgetting. The thing about me, I always talk about growing up poor, right? But I mainly talked about it in stand-up. But since then, I've said many times on podcast, I grew up in a trailer, but my mom had a pretty good job working at a factory that made VHS tapes. And I don't think our problem was that we didn't have any money. Our problem was we just spent it on fun things rather than buying a house. Like my parents got divorced when I was 2 or 3, and my mom moved into a trailer park really close to where she used to work. And then she never got remarried from that, so she was a single mom, and I think she was making pretty good money. And she, my opinion, she just looked and said, well, I'm making this much money. If I just stay here in this trailer, I have a good bit of money to spend on just enjoying my life. Hey, Dusty. As of last week, I became a first-time Jeep owner. Like you, I had no idea what the ducks in the Jeeps meant. I've since joined a few Jeep Facebook groups. They immediately get involved in some type of a cult when you own a Jeep. I've since joined a few Jeep Facebook groups and have quickly learned what the deal is with all the ducks. Quick side note, this is in the email, this side note. Even now, after learning about the story, I still don't plan to participate heavily in the act. Well, give it some time, buddy. You just got a Jeep, you're already in some Jeep groups, and you're already admitting, I'm not going to do it heavily. I may do a duck or two, but that's what every drug addict, every alcoholic says. I may just mess around with it a little bit. Here we go, continuing on. Here's what I've learned in the last couple of days. Ducking Jeeps was born out of a simple, pure, and honorable action. Okay. Allison would tell you that she never thought it would become a thing. In fact, the first time she ducked someone, it was because they appeared to be having a bad day, and her only thought was to make them feel better. I'm sure Allison was a real sweetheart. Okay, here we go. Nobody could have known that this single, simple act of kindness would bloom coast to coast and beyond and become part of Jeep tradition. I already hate it. I'm going to be honest with you. I already hate it. But here we go. What is Duck Duck Jeep? The Duck Duck Jeep craze was started in Ontario, Canada, where my wife is from, by the mother ducker Allison Parliament. Allison is from Ontario, Canada, but works in Alabama, where I'm from. In July 2020, Allison Parliament, while back at home in Bancroft, Ontario, Canada, was approached by strangers because of her Alabama Jeep license plate and attacked verbally because of pandemic concerns. Instead of fighting back, Allison Parliament bought a giant yellow rubber duck and placed them on a fellow Jeep owner with a note and posted it on Facebook. The post went viral and the Duck Duck Jeep craze started, and hopefully it doesn't end anytime soon. This is all part of the email. And now some words for me. I hate this. I hate it so much, okay? Here we go. First off, this lady, we don't know what she does for a living. It doesn't matter. But she's driving instead of flying from Bancroft, Ontario, down to Alabama. And she's just driving, just enjoying her life, just living her life in 2020. And some people attack her because of COVID. And it says, instead of fighting back, which is what she should have done, she should have told these people they were idiots, okay? I was sitting in a doctor's office, and this was long after. This was probably 2022. And I was in the lobby, and I had my mask down below my nose because it's stupid. They made me wear the mask, and I needed to be, I went to the dermatologist. I needed to get something checked out, and everything was fine. And this lady, I was sitting in my seat first, okay? I was sitting off on my own, around no one. And this lady came and sat pretty close to me, and then she goes, "Can you put your mask above your nose?" And I said, no. I said, this is ridiculous that we're even doing this. And so anyway, I'm just saying, I said no. This is what Allison Parliament should have done. But instead, Allison Parliament's like, oh, you're attacking me because of a pandemic concern, huh? Let me go, and I don't know what the note said, but she goes, let me go get a rubber duck and put my hands all over it and then put that in your Jeep with a note. Because you're so scared of COVID, let me put some physical things inside your car from me. Let me scare you even more. If Allison Parliament had found a dead duck and then thrown it in the front seat of the Jeep, that's a trend I could get into. Dead ducks in the cars of people that attack you for no reason because of their own fears. I got a couple of packages that people have sent me. I went to my post office box the other day, and there were a bunch of packages. So I already opened them, but I'm just going to try to open a few of them here on the podcast and give some people some shout outs just to say thank you. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, but I got so far behind with it that I thought, well, if I start now, there'll be so many people that I never thanked. But then if I don't start now, I'll never start. So here we go. I'm going to grab them. And if you want to send something, don't feel obligated to send me anything, ever. But if you want to send something, my P.O. Box, it's P.O. Box 8146, Hermitage, Tennessee 37076. So the first one is coming from Ashby Frank. This is a CD, which I will listen to. And then a hat that says Yacht Grass, which that's making me hope this is some yacht rock music here. I mean, I'm into yacht rock. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, this is coming from Jared Fleming. Jared Fleming. Beautiful picture. And a note. I'm not going to read the note on the podcast. I don't know if they want me to do that. But it's some leather things. I'm assuming these are coasters. Thank you, Jared. And a leather belt. I love a belt. I've gotten a couple of belts lately. I'm not able to untie this right now. It's probably easier than I'm making it. There it is. Okay. But a nice leather belt here. Cool design on there. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. I will wear this belt. It smells like leather. I love the smell of leather. Okay. This is coming from Cheryl. Lives in the area. And I appreciate this. Note here, again, I'm not going to read it on the podcast, but I have a video out there where I'm being sad about having to get rid of my hand truck. Now, I wish I had the hand truck because where I live now, I got a bit more room, and I could use the hand truck. It may be time to go buy another one, but I got a video out there. It's a very good video about me giving my hand truck to Goodwill. And so Cheryl here has sent me a little hand truck. Some people call it a dolly. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to, but yeah, it's a little hand truck there. Thank you, Cheryl. That's great. I'm thinking about changing the name of the podcast to We're Having a Bad Time, just so I can complain a lot. That's what I like. I like comically complaining. I don't really care. Most things, I don't care. But I love to complain about them. I think it's fun. But then somebody had said that if I watch Shang-Chi, it would give me more insight to the Mandarin and the gang known as the Ten Rings. So I watched it. And I got to tell you, I loved it. And the part that I liked the least was kind of the more superhero parts of it. It all had a little fantasy and superhero about it, but I am really into I'm into Asian stuff, like Japanese and Chinese type things, samurai, kung fu, karate. I mean, I really like Cobra Kai, and I know that Cobra Kai is, takes place in LA, but the overall message, at least with Daniel LaRusso, is that, his life was altered in a positive way by a Japanese man and his old kind of culture of peace, bonsai trees, and karate, right? And I like Ip Man. Ip Man is a really great kung fu movie. Now, the first one is about Japan invading China, and a bit of a dark tale there. I've read a little bit about that, bit dark. But the movie, really great. I like a lot of those kung fu movies like that because I like that old, ancient China culture, and Shang-Chi just got me into it. Stopped at a little gas station where we had to pee. We had to pee pretty bad. Stopped at a gas station. We were driving along this mountain road, and I've seen a lot of kudzu in my life, but we were driving around this mountain road, and there was kudzu on all sides, covering everything, coming down the mountain, covering all the trees. And it was covered up these certain trees, and I guess Zach is from Connecticut. I don't think he had ever really seen kudzu. And the way they were covering the trees, it made them look like giants. It was pretty insane. I'm even familiar with kudzu, and I thought it was pretty crazy. And but they look like giants. We had to pee. We pulled into this gas station. We had no signal, and it was just a one toilet in there. So we took turns. So when I went in first, and then Zach went in next, and I pulled around front to pick him up. And I was going to get food in there, but they had only fried food. It looked like some nice older ladies working there, but all fried food, and fried in a weird way, in a weird way that every item in there looked exactly the same. I almost couldn't tell anything apart in there because it was all fried so thick that everything looked the same. I could barely be like, okay, this is fries, this is catfish. You know, it was like, but it was tough to tell. So I was like, I'm not going to do that to my digestion. I hate fireworks. I hate them now. I think it's too much. It's too much fireworks. When I was growing up, I lived in the trailer park, and this is what I would get. I would get bottle rockets, usually 2 Roman candles, and black cats. But that's mainly what we had was bottle rockets and black cats. And the black cats would go on way too long, and I'm sure people got annoyed with me because, you know, some we would set off in the pack to where it would sound like a machine gun went off. But I like to separate them because that was all I had. So if you set the whole pack off, it was gone. I like to break it down into individual little pieces, and then I would use it to blow up things, you know. I would set a G.I. Joe on top, or I wasn't really cruel with animals, but I remember guys telling me they would put a black cat in a frog's mouth. I was like, what? I loved frogs. I never would do that. In 2001, I joined the Army. There's a podcast that I did about that, and there's a video on YouTube about that. And then I did not get into the Army. I got arrested, and I didn't make it in. And I could have still gone in lieu of, in lieu of probation or all these different things. I got my sentencing for an open beer at 18 and a little bit of weed was 2 years unsupervised probation, 9 months without a driver's license, $700 in fines, and 40 hours of community service. And I think that was it. I think that was what I had to do. But I thought it was pretty severe punishment. And the probation was basically that I didn't have to take drug test every month. I didn't have to meet with a probation officer, which was very nice. I was told that is a thing that my lawyer got me. But I had I think it was a 3-month suspended jail sentence. So if I got in trouble within that 2 years, I would go to jail for 3 months, was what I was being told. So, and you know, prior to that arrest, I was going to the Army. I was working at Western Sizzlin', and had a crush on a girl. And rather than just being a man and asking her on a date, I was very frustrated with my life and decided to join the Army. So I was going to do that, and I was just going to kind of roll out of there in a blaze of glory. But instead, I got arrested. And then there was a bit of time in between getting arrested. This is always a little fuzzy for me on the timeline. But in between getting arrested and actually going to court, I did have my driver's license, but the Army was out. So I bought a trailer that I grew up in for $1,000, and me and my buddy started moving into this trailer. I was working at Papa John's. For whatever reason, at Papa John's, I was already not allowed to be a delivery guy anymore. I used to be a delivery guy at Papa John's, but when I went back, I guess my driving record was not good enough for me to be a delivery driver. And this was even, without the suspended license. So I was, making pizzas and working on the inside, which was still fun. I was having a good time. I was answering the phones, making pizza. It was a good time. And me and my friend John moved into the trailer, and we got settled in, and we were having a good time. And then I went to court and I might have even started the job at Office Depot. Matter of fact, I think I had started the job at Office Depot as well. A lot of this is really fuzzy because this was over 20 years ago, but I had also started this job at Office Depot. After not getting into the Army, my mom was already working at Office Depot. And so my mom also listens to the podcast. So this is uncomfortable for me to even talk about. But my mom was working at Office Depot. So they got me a job, but I had to take a drug test. And so I failed to get into the Army. So immediately I fell back into my old ways of smoking weed all the time. So I was already smoking weed, but now I've been offered this job and I got to take a drug test. And I'm like, oh man, this is not looking good for me. Because at the time, my mom, prior to the Army, my mom knew I was into weed, but she didn't know that I started back after not getting into the Army, because I was kind of telling a lie at that time, and I wanted everybody to know that, yes, I got arrested for weed, but now because I saw that it could get me in trouble, I decided to clean up my life. But I got arrested. I had nothing going on in my life. My frustration that led me to want to leave my hometown was now 100% back. Now I made such a big effort to get out of my hometown and now was trapped again. So weed was my escape. So I had to take the drug test, and I bought one of those drinks. It's the only time I've ever done this, where you kind of buy one of those drinks. I don't even remember what I did, but I think you just drink it and then you take the drug test. And it worked. I passed the drug test, so I got the job at Office Depot. And then I went to court. And then when the court thing came out, it was all laid on the table, and I no longer had a driver's license. And I think my friend John could see the writing on the wall, so he was like, I'm moving out. And it might have been that, or it might have been that he moved in with me and I was having people over every day and we were smoking out the trailer, and John wasn't into weed. That could have been it. I don't know. But either way, John moved out. So now here I am, about a year out of high school, and I'm in a trailer, and I got a suspended license. I'm on probation. I'm high every day, and now I don't know, and I'm alone in my trailer. I don't know how I'm going to get to work. And a friend of mine comes to me and presents the idea. He says, I need a place to live. My parents have kicked me out. And he said, I want to propose the idea that you let me live here for free. And keep in mind, the trailer was paid off. My lot rent was $120 a month, and that included water. And he was like, I'll live here for free, and I'll drive you to work every day and pick you up every day. And that sounded like a pretty good idea to me. And he's like, I'll sell weed, and that's how I'll make money. And I go, okay. And I go, all right, well, I'll accept that offer, but I also will counter. I didn't use this terminology, but this is basically, I said, I'll counter. You're allowed to sell weed out of my trailer as long as you smoke weed with me for free. So that was our arrangement. And I said, now if this is our deal, you got to be on top of it. I can't be late to work because you're not here to pick me up. And I don't want to be sitting around after I get off work with no ride. I need you to be there. So he said, okay, deal. So that's what we did going forward. My friend would drive me to work every day, pick me up every day. And most of the time we would get high before we went to work. And then when he would pick me up, we were smoking blunts and joints back in the day. And he would meet me at Office Depot with a rolled blunt, and we would get in the car and we would drive home. And it was great. My friend had an Isuzu Rodeo, and he had 17-inch rims on it, and he had a system. So he would pull up in the parking lot looking very fresh, and it'd have the bass going, and it was like, so I looked pretty cool, to be honest. I mean, it was less of a suspended license and more of a chauffeur. I don't know how to say it. A chauffeur? I don't know. It's like I had a service going on. Like my friend would pick me up in style, and we would get high on the way home. And it was unbelievable. I mean, it was, of course, we were going back to a trailer in practically Beauregard, which was a small town or community outside of Opelika, but it was pretty sweet. How do I stop drinking altogether? I see a therapist regularly, and that has helped. I like when you say, I can't stop drinking. It's Tuesday. I got a wedding this month. What do you do to cut out those smaller instances so you don't have a dumb blowout? It's different for everybody, right? But what works for me with not drinking is you just have to stop altogether. You have to give up the lie that we tell ourselves that drinking is the only way life will be fun. I don't think I'm that fun of a person. I don't mean I'm boring or lame. I don't think I'm extremely fun. I think I'm a more serious person than I was when I drank. But I feel better. I enjoy my life more. But I remember one time waiting tables. I was waiting on a table, and a guy came in, and this guy told me that he was diagnosed with diabetes. I don't know if that's exactly the term, but he had to quit drinking because of it. And it made me so sad that I was just like, oh, man. And I really had the thought, like I was being a rational person, where I was like, I want to drink my whole life. I enjoy drinking. I envision myself as an old man hanging out by some water somewhere, a lake or the ocean, just having drinks with my friends. There's a podcast clip with Bert Kreischer where he's just talking about how much he loves drinking and how he'll always keep himself in good enough shape to keep drinking because he just loves drinking. And that's how I always viewed it. I didn't keep myself in any kind of shape, but I just love drinking. And I was like, this is just what I want to do. I like this. This is what adults do. Adults just drink. But it's just a lie that we tell ourselves. Now, again, I always give this caveat when I'm talking about this sort of stuff because there are people that can drink, they can handle it, they don't have a problem, and their lives are fine. So if you can do all that, by all means, do it. I mean, I'm not telling anyone to stop drinking. But it's when we start doing these things where we go, all right, I'm noticing that this is a problem for me, drinking. So how do I regulate it? How do I put myself on some kind of regulator to where I can do it, and it still work for me? The only way for people like this, in my opinion, is to just quit doing it. And, I made those jokes because those jokes are true, where I would go, I'd quit drinking, but I got a wedding this weekend, or, I got a graduation party and I got a drink there, or I've been invited to this football game, or, oh no, I'm going out with my friends this weekend, so I can't quit drinking now. Now I got a buddy coming into town, and it'd be a real bummer for him if I weren't drinking when he got here, or, oh, I got an open mic, and when I do this open mic, me and my buddies, we all love to get hammered. We have to get hammered. We have to tell our jokes, and then get so blackout drunk that we embarrass ourselves and pee our pants in the parking lot. It's like we just tell ourselves these lies. And I don't know if we're telling ourselves these lies or if this is a deliberate attack from Satan in our lives. People don't like to believe this sort of stuff because people, they feel like it's a scapegoat mentality where you're like, oh, Satan's doing it to you, huh? And I'm going, and I'm saying there are attacks by Satan. Now, not everything going on in our life is an attack by Satan, but probably it is. But so many people like to put things on their own shoulders, and they say, no, this is my problem, and I got to deal with this. And I think it just makes it harder to deal with. Whereas if you just say, well, you know what? I'm being attacked. This is an attack. This is not who I am. I'm not the kind of person that wants to binge drink on the weekends. I don't want to be blacking out. I don't want to be a weekend warrior. This is not who I am. This is not who God designed me to be. I'm being attacked. This attack, for most of us, is a long, drawn-out battle, and Satan has waged war on us for a long time. The way to quit drinking is to just quit. It seems like it's a more complicated answer than that, but the thing is you quit, and then you stay quit. You never allow yourself to even have a sip of alcohol, because the moment you do, you'll go, oh, that's fun. Because the reality is, it is fun. It is fun to drink. It is fun to lose control. I've said it many times. I'm a bit of a control freak myself, in a way. I don't like to use that terminology necessarily, but I am. My dad's controlling. I'm controlling. And I fight it. I'm aware of it, and I fight it, but I overanalyze everything, and I go, all right, this is the best way to do it. After my complete overanalysis, this is the best way to do it. So then I have a hard time changing because I'm like, no, this is the best way. But when I drank, I would completely lose control, and I love it. I mean, it's very freeing to where you're like, it feels good to not care about anything. But the not caring goes too far to where you're like, oh, you need to care about some things. You can't not care about everything. So you got to quit drinking. You just got to do it. You can't be a weekend warrior. The hard thing that I never had to deal with is that you're married and your wife also drinks, presumably, based on the email. So you both got to do it, because you see this happen with couples that meet each other in rehab or whatever, I'm not saying every couple is like this, but I'm saying you see these examples where they both go to rehab and then they meet each other and then they go, okay, well, this will be good because we're both wanting to stay sober and we're both wanting to stay off drugs. But then if one gets pulled in, they pull the other one in, because deep down with a lot of these addictions, thankfully my addiction was alcohol, right? I mean, I know it's a serious one and it destroys a lot of lives, but, it wasn't cocaine, it wasn't meth, it wasn't heroin. But a lot of these people, they're in recovery, but they still want to do it, so it's a fight every day to stay off of it. So when you're with someone and they're like, I want to do it, and then they pull you in. So if you're a married couple, you got to decide not to do it together, and then you can just never do it. I did, I've told this story before, one time being in church, taking a sip of communion wine that I thought was grape juice, and it ended up being real wine, and I thought I was going to leave church and go to happy hour. I mean, I felt it running through me, and I thought, oh, man. I mean, if I'd have done 2 shots of communion wine, which I don't think you do, but if I'd done 2 shots, I would have went to the bar. It's no question. To this day, I will not try it. If my wife orders a drink or somebody I'm with orders a drink and they go, ooh, that's really good, I'll never try it. I stay far away from non-alcoholic beers. I know a lot of people that quit drinking and they'll have non-alcoholic beers. I stay far away. I think even the taste of alcohol would bring me back into it. And maybe I'm too paranoid, right? Maybe I'm being too extreme, and I think, and maybe, there's a lot of maybes. Maybe I'm mature now and I could handle it. I could handle a beer or two. But it's not worth it. The risk far outweighs anything I would gain from it. And I can tell you, even with my own experience with cigars, that I'm not better. Because I can go for a while without a cigar, and then I have one, and I go, oh, wow, that's good. That does feel good. And then I want to dive right back in. And it's a struggle. So I've always used nicotine as kind of my barometer. I want to talk about the movers because I hired movers this time. Now, the last time I moved from my apartment to my house, in 2019, I moved from my apartment to my house, and I hired movers then. These guys were very shady. I worried that they would just show up later and steal my stuff. They were very sketchy. I remember I was paying them by the hour, and they took a lunch break and then tried to charge me for the lunch break. And they didn't even work a full day. And I'm like, I get it. If you want to eat, man, you eat. I'm not trying to keep you from eating. I'm not in such a rush. But he told me, he was like, because we had that lunch, we went into a new block of time, so we'll have to charge you for that time too. I got them to not do it. But it's like having to deal with that. And it's like, so then people move you. They know where you live. They know what kind of stuff you have. And then, not that I have anything that valuable anyway, but they know what kind of stuff you have. And now you've seemingly ripped them off by not charging them, not paying them for that extra block of time. So that's, so that's not what I wanted to do. But this is the first time that I had ever completely inhabited a house. Like, I've lived with people, I've lived in houses, I've had my own apartment maybe once. And me and Hannah had our own apartment twice. But this was the only time I'd ever completely inhabited a house, moving myself, my wife, my kids. And it's a lot of work. I mean, we're not done. I had a whole garden thing going in the back. I'm still moving. I went over there today. I made one trip. And, I wasn't there a long time, but I just emptied a section. But we're very close to being done. And then we're going to try to sell the house. We are going to sell the house. So that will be nice, but as for now, we're doing a little bit of both. So I wanted to hire movers. So my real estate agent had a company. He said they are the Chick-fil-A of movers. And they were amazing. They brought a 4-man crew. They were very nice guys. We talked, we laughed, we have a good time. They moved a bunch of stuff. I have a sauna that they were able to move with just straps. 2 guys carried it off the truck with these straps that they just have. And it's unbelievable. And they were the best. And my friend, when I lived in Charleston, my friend used to be a mover, and he would talk about how hard it was, and he would talk about what people would tip, and he would tell me when people gave him a certain amount of money, and he felt like that was a good tip, and then he would say other people wouldn't tip. So I'm like, I feel like I don't know the amount of money to tip, but I feel like I'm savvy in the sense that I'm like, yeah, no, I need to tip. I need to tip. Even though they're getting an hourly wage or they're getting some kind of wage, I don't know what the wage is, but I feel like I should tip. But I didn't have, the kind of cash on me that I wanted to give to them. So I said to the guy, I go, you'll probably send me a bill. He goes, oh no, we'll be able to take care of it right here. We'll have a iPad and a Square reader, and we'll be able to take care of it. And I go, oh, cool. And I go, well, what about if I want to tip you guys? He goes, oh, yeah, there'll be an option for that. So it was 4 guys. And I'm not, I don't want to talk about price with it, but, I was a little shocked by how much it cost. But, I mean, I'm in my 40s now. I don't have the kind of friends anymore. I have one or two, but I don't have the kind of friends really to move all this stuff. My back hurts. I don't want to be moving all that stuff. I see people, they're walking around, they going, you got all your Christmas shopping done? That's the beautiful thing, the most shocking thing to people. People will see me in a store. I had an old lady saw me in a store one time, and she goes, oh, you got all your Christmas shopping done? I go, yep. And she goes, really? I go, oh, yeah. Because I'm not doing any. It's beautiful. Can you imagine? Now, I like the idea that if there are people in your family, younger, poorer people who don't have any money and don't have any way to get good, buy them some gifts, by all means. But this whole thing that we're doing out here, where adults are buying other adults presents, what are we doing? I'm not saying that I don't like a gift, and I like to give a gift, but I think you can do the gift anytime. If you see something that you think the other person will like, and listen, if you want to give gifts, I don't care. I don't care at all. I get gifts. I appreciate them. You know, I do appreciate them. I appreciate anything that people give to me. Somebody just gave me this hat. I appreciate these things. But I just feel like there's a real stress that comes along with it. People max out credit cards. People, you know, I almost feel like I got involved in a scandal in my hometown of Opelika. My neighbor across, I think I already talked about this, but my neighbor across the street from my mom said that he was not very nice to her. I don't know, and I'm not saying that my mom would be wrong about that, but, you know, who knows what goes on in a neighborhood, right? The place, when my mom has trash that doesn't go into the trash can, like furniture or things like that that need to be picked up, the city tells my mom to sit it across the road, says there's a little spot over there that they want her to sit that stuff, and not on her side next to her house, because the bank by the road is a little too steep and the stuff will fall in the ditch. But on the other side, there's a little more space. But that other side is the neighbor's side. So to me, and I don't know, but I feel like if I were the neighbor and I didn't know that my mom had had this conversation with the city about where to put the trash, and she kept putting her trash on my side of the road, I think that would fire me up. But anyway, apparently he was not nice to my mom, and he has an unbelievable Christmas decoration set up. I don't like it. I don't think it looks good, but it's unbelievable. Inflatables, lights, I mean, just a plethora of things. I mean, the entire yard. During the day, it looks like a war zone out there of uninflated inflatables laying all over the ground. It's a dead Santa Claus and elves and minions all over. They look like that girl from the old weed commercial where she smoked weed and sank into the couch. That's what it looks like. That all at nighttime, all the inflatables got high, and now they're passed out in the yard. And there was a vote that came up for best decorations in Opelika, best Christmas decorations. And a friend, a guy I went to high school with, he had a nice setup too. Now, I'd never seen it in real life, but he had reached out to me and said he was a little behind on winning this thing and wondered if I would help. And I said, well, I got to see your display. So he sent me a video, and I go, okay, that looks good. I didn't want to be voting for nothing out here. So I sent it out to my I leveraged my fans, not the podcast, but my Facebook fan page. I leveraged it to get some votes for my friend. And he was down by like 100. And then he won by a landslide. And he won the thing. And I felt good about it because I was like, this guy had not been nice to my mom, and now he lost best Christmas decorations in Opelika. Also, this guy, not from Opelika. My friend is from Opelika. And us Opelika people, we care about other Opelika people. And so, but I say all that to say, what stress comes with these decorations? And all I'm saying is God wants us to have, my belief, again, wants us to have non-stressful celebrations.